At its annual spring event, Apple has just announced a brand new iMac with a pretty radical new design, but it's also the first iMac to adopt the M1 processor. So here are 3 things I love about this new iMac and 2 things that I think were a missed opportunity. This is Luke with Digital Trends, and man, I'm excited for this new iMac. But before we get to that, make sure to hit that like button and leave a comment below telling me what you thought of Apple's big spring event and specifically this new iMac. I can't wait to hear what you all think. The new iMac has finally arrived, and it's the one we've been waiting for many, many years. If you're like me, that means you've been actually complaining about the outdated design of the old iMac for a long time. But a major redesign is finally here, and the size and shape of this thing is definitely the #1 feature for me that I really, really like. It definitely catches your eye. Now, when you take a look at this new design, the most noticeable change right away, outside of the 7 new color options, of course, is this completely flat back of the computer, which gets rid of that larger curved design featured in all the previous iMacs. It's insanely thin looking. It's only 11.5 millimeters thin, and the overall volume of the system has been reduced by 50%. It's a big change, and the reason Apple was able to do this is because all the actual components have now been put underneath the display. Not behind as it was before, but like in the bottom bezel below the screen. Without all those hot components to cool behind the screen, they were able to trim down the chassis as much as they did. But there's a trade-off, and that brings me to my first downside to this design, and that's the size of these bezels. While I love the new look, I'm a little shocked at how big the bottom bezel still is. I just explained the reasoning behind it, I get it, and yet I'm still left a little disappointed. I mean, we've been waiting years for Apple to come up to industry standard with this, and I thought Apple would at least have found a way to match the bezels of the Pro Display XDR, but we've still got a pretty big chin going on here, and you're gonna have to be staring at that thing all day long. But let's get back to the positives, and the next one up is performance. This is the first iMac to get the M1. It's the same chip that shows up in the MacBook Air, the MacBook Pro, and the Mac Mini. And even though there were a lot of expectations for a more powerful M1X version of this chip showing up in the new iMac, we have to remember what this thing is replacing. This 24-inch model is taking the place of the 21.5-inch iMac that Apple is no longer selling, which was basically an outdated mess. As of just a few days ago, it had a 7th gen Intel processor, and it even still required you to use the Fusion drive for storage if you wanted anything more than 256 gigabytes. All that is gone, and you can now configure this new iMac up to 16 gigabytes of RAM and 2 terabytes of SSD storage. But most importantly, you now have that same fantastic, efficient performance of the M1 that we've already seen in the first wave of products now in the iMac. Apple says it's 85% faster than the previous 21.5-inch iMac, and again, given what we're coming from, I do believe that. They put special emphasis on creative software, of course, like Xcode, Lightroom, and iMovie, as well as on the power of the integrated graphics, which Apple says are 50% faster than even the discrete options that were previously available. Now, I'm not sure how these are going to stack up against the more powerful discrete graphics options from AMD that are in the 27-inch iMac, which is still being sold. But for this size, it should drastically improve both gaming and content creation workflows. More importantly, this entire design has been built around the M1. It just couldn't exist otherwise. And that gets me really excited for the future of M1 Macs, especially the future of MacBooks when they're actually designed around this chip. Let's go to ports next, because they're an important part of a creative workflow. And here, Apple is kind of shortchanging us again. And this is the second thing that I'm just not feeling about this new iMac design. We're down to just 4 USB-C ports, 2 of which are Thunderbolt 4. And look, that's enough, I guess, but the base model is actually only sold with the 2 Thunderbolt 4 ports, and that's it. You'll have to pay extra to upgrade for those 2 extra USB-C ports, and that's pretty rough. Now, Apple is doing a couple of cool things with these new ports. The new power cable, for example, is now using a braided cord and it now magnetizes to the back of the iMac, which is a nice touch. And the power adapter itself also now features a built-in Ethernet jack for high-wire connections, which is a cool way of getting that in without having to put it on the back of the iMac. But I know I'm gonna miss my USB-A and especially the SD card slot, which is pretty frustrating given how much Apple talked about this being an option for creatives. Now, the final thing that I really like about this new 24-inch iMac is the new keyboard option. While I would have loved a complete redesign of that horrible Magic Mouse, I really like that Apple has finally brought Touch ID to the Magic Keyboard for the first time. We've been waiting for that one for a long time. I still really want Face ID to eventually come to the iMac, but Touch ID at least brings the basics in terms of security and convenience to the iMac. Now there's a lot more to these new iMacs, such as the 6-speaker sound system or the improved webcams, but ultimately we're gonna have to wait and see until we have these things in hand and we can test them out ourselves. But for now, this new 24-inch model has me pretty excited about the future of the iMac. Hey, thanks for checking out this video. If you went out and bought one of these new iMacs today, which of the new color options would you go for? Leave me a comment below and let me know. And while you're there, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more videos from Digital Trends like these two that I think you will like.